So how strategic is it to select those 3 pairings at the World Championships?
So, I mean, you've got 3 pairs, and obviously each of the pairs, they've got to be used to playing with each other, but it's really important to get a good matchup if you want to make sure you win that match. Welcome to this week's podcast, where we're going to be discussing the World Championships qualifying that took place in the UK. We're also going to be discussing this week's video, where we talk about possession and communication on court as a pair. And then, as always, we'll finish with a couple of questions from our community.
So Sandy, how was your weekend up in Derby at the World Championships?
It was a great weekend. I mean, obviously, you know, from the result side, it was good, but really, from my side, like, I love competing, and so it was just nice to play a week full of competition. You know, the first few days we got extra days training with our team, and which was great, and you know, we got used to playing with each other, which often we don't get that chance before a World Championships or a European Championships. So we played those matches there. Then we went to the main competition, and again, you know, strong competition every day, which is great for the paddle, but also great for the soul. Like, I really enjoy, like, you know, good competition, and so yeah, it was fantastic.
So GB secured 3rd place for the men's team. What are sort of some shock results or anything you thought was quite interesting?
I mean, I don't want to say it's a shock, but it's always quite surprising to see teams that, you know, have almost come from nowhere. Like, our first match was against Hungary, and you know, you would think, well, they probably don't have much paddle there, it's quite new, but they were good. I mean, you know, some kind of ex-tennis players that have, you know, relatively recently taken the sport up, and they played well, and Austria the same. You know, all of these teams now are getting stronger and stronger. You know, Monaco is there, and they were good as well, and so, you know, very soon there's not going to be any easy matches out there, and you know, I think also from the women's side as well, like, you know, the women's teams are getting stronger. You know, I saw the Finnish team competing really well. I see, you know, the Danish team, the Polish team, that everyone is playing well. And I'm not saying it's a shock, but it's great to see that, like, year on year, just, you know, kind of compounding the improvement. And yes, we qualified. Unfortunately, the GB ladies, they lost in the semi-finals to a very strong Sweden. You know, so Sweden and Portugal were the 2 qualifiers from the ladies. Only 2 qualifiers for ladies because there were 13 teams. The men's had 3 qualifiers because there were 18 teams. And, you know, for them it was Portugal. I was going to say Sweden, but Sweden played Portugal in the first. Netherlands, and then us, Great Britain. So, you know, I suppose the main shock came when the draw was made, because Portugal, do you remember we talked about it on the last podcast about how, you know,
everyone was trying to avoid Portugal.
Everyone's trying to avoid Portugal, and Portugal got drawn with Sweden in their groups, and it was the first match of the tournament, and what a match. I mean, it was, you know, a great match between, you know, 2 very strong Portuguese guys, and Danny Windel, who had just played in World Padel Tour, came across for that, and he played with one of the younger Swedes, and you know, that match ended up, I think it was 3 sets. It was almost, you know, that was going to decide, you know, which way that match would swing, and Portugal ended up winning, and therefore Sweden have not qualified, which is a bit of a shock result because their team is so strong, but yeah, I mean, really, it was great to see the level from all countries.
I think great for UK paddle, particularly hosting it in Derby, raising awareness. A lot of people came to watch and support, and I think it was just great for the local population to see such a high level of paddle. I
think it was great for the local population. It was also great for the federation. You know, the facility was, you know, one of the Ladakh facilities, so it was, you know, 11 indoor courts, and they were newly put in, and it was a nice atmosphere, and, you know, Portuguese fans, the Swedish fans came, and you know, there's a really buzzing, lively atmosphere, and a series of, you know, games that the LTA, their kind of representatives came and watched, and they were really kind of impressed with, you know, the level, the atmosphere around the club, you know, the behaviour of the players, and I think we needed that in this country, because we're still at about 200 courts, so we need that push, and so it was, you know, it was great for that, and obviously great for all of these people who are not used to seeing a high level to watch it live and to see it and understand it.
So Dubai coming up in a few weeks. What are you sort of going away with the GB team and getting them to sort of prepare? You know, how are they going to prepare for these really strong teams that are going to be in Dubai? Is there anything specific you take away from this competition? You think it's a short amount of time, isn't it? But
it's not long. It's 3 weeks, and when you look at the teams and the differences between the teams, there's not huge. You know, no one is saying one person can hit a Vibra and the other one can't. Like there's not big technical differences. The differences really come with, you know, consistency and shot choice, and, you know, playing the lob a little bit higher and a little bit deeper, and, you know, not making one unforced error. Like if you can cut one unforced error out of each game, then, you know, you're improving your level. And when we go to Dubai, it's the main draw, so all of these teams are going to be strong. We're not going to have any easy matches. So, you know, getting that extra consistency with your lobs, extra consistency and accuracy with your bandejas, you know, those are the things that we can work on in this short space of time, and it will be outdoors. So, and it's going to be, you know, at the tennis stadium, which is amazing. And obviously I know Dubai really well. I spent a long time there, so I know how they will set the tournament up, and it will be probably the best World Championships that you know has been to this point. And you will be able to run out the court, which is a big factor at this level. And also, you know, it's outdoors, so these high lobs and you know, playing that type of game is going to be crucial.
Digging into the actual match play that you had last week, how do you assess matches that you've won, matches that you've lost? Is there anything that you come away afterwards and do specifically, or is it, you know, quite a short period of time, you think about what happened, what you could have done better, and then move straight on? Like how do you kind of approach that?
Yeah, I mean, me personally, and you've competed a lot, so you will understand this as well. But it's me personally. I'll reflect on the match, whether I've won or lost, and then I'll really try and be as objective as possible. And the nice thing is, all those games are streamed, so I can go back and watch. And now I'm not watching, you know, in the heat of battle. I'm watching, you know, as an outsider, and I'm saying, right, you know, I may be making too many mistakes here, or I could improve when they serve down the tee. I could improve my lob, you know, from my high lob from that position, and I'm probably picking out a couple of things that I need to work on. You know, along with that, physically as well, just kind of maybe improving my mobility a little bit, maybe just putting in, you know, an extra bit of cardio time to make sure that I get through those longer matches. You know, I'm also thinking that in Dubai, you know, often that time of year it's quite humid, so you know, fitness will definitely be a factor. And so you know, I'm already thinking, right, how can I slot this into my game and or my daily routine, my weekly routine, because I'll still be based in the UK, so I'm not going to have lots of good matches between now and then. So I need to you know, maybe do some conditioning and also maybe focus on a couple of the drills or areas of the game.
You talked about video analysis and how important that is, you know, on the live stream, to look at your matches afterwards and make that difference between what you thought was happening in the middle of the match and what actually is happening. How important is looking at videos of yourself playing? I think can't be underestimated. The value
it's
of it.
huge. It's huge, and we see that with our students, right? Like we spend time, we go through their matches, that we analyse their games, we give them bits to work on, and I mean, they make real progress. First is that realisation of what they're actually doing, and sometimes for a coach is a bit of proof, right? We need a bit of proof to say, actually, this is what you're doing, and we watch it back in slow-mo and we say, here the issues are. But you know, as a player as well, you know, sometimes you're thinking one thing on the court and you're thinking, I'm doing, you know, far too much of this, and you watch and you think, oh, actually, I'm maybe not doing it enough, or you know, or even the other way around, where you feel like, you know, you haven't done enough of something, and this is exactly what this analysis is for. And nowadays, I mean, at this level, most of these pro matches are streamed, so there's no excuse. And in most clubs, or a lot of clubs around the world, you have the option of, you know, streaming on court, or you just set up a simple tripod with your phone and you record bits yourself. And it's actually really easy to do that. And what a difference it makes to your game. It's huge.
I think, interestingly, it doesn't matter what level you are, whether you're beginner or even up to professional. I think it's as important, I think, no matter what level you are. It's not just for beginners, is it?
Well, we use it as coaches, you and I, we both use it. And that's why we have a tripod in our bag for the players to show them what they're doing. Because, how many times have we talked about the bandeja and they've said, yeah, my arm is, high at the back or it is straight at the back. And you look at the video and you say, well, actually it's here. And they're like, oh, I didn't realize.
Yeah, they have that aha moment, don't they?
Instantly, instantly improves after that because they actually see what they're doing wrong. So, I can't, neither of us can emphasize that enough. It's crucial.
So a big part of working with a pair is communication, and the video this week is on hogging in paddle. How important is communication when it comes to deciding whose balls is whose?
Yeah, I mean, it's crucial at every level. Like, even we've saw this week, playing with the same partner for the whole week, lots of matches, your communication by the end of the week is so much better. It's so much more refined. You're calling what that your partner needs. And as a new pair, you probably need to do more communication or extra communication just to find that mixed so that you gel together as a pair. And yeah, whatever the level. I mean, at the beginning, well, you know how difficult it is. We have our clinics and we say, right, let's start our communication, talk about where your opponents are. And, if you come from tennis or other sports, it's the same in team sports as well, that you're so used to calling yours and mine, like that's all that's being called, and so it's a huge part of the game is getting out that communication, and we see it at the World Padel Tour. I mean, how much are the pros talking to each other?
Yeah, the funny is that the yours and mine, it's usually it's yours.
Yeah, yours. And then the tennis player ducks and crosses over to the net while the other person runs into that back corner. But the possession and the sides, it's completely different, isn't it? You cover your own side. And yeah, you see, I mean, the pros there, it's almost like they're having a running conversation throughout the point.
Yeah. Interesting, yeah. When you watch those sort of tour guys, playing, they're using communication to their advantage, right? I think a lot of the time when you first start paddle, you're sort of communicating just to kind of keep the point alive. But for those guys, they're actually using communication to their advantage, to actually tell them where exactly they're on the court so they can, make the most of that. Whereas, communication is kind of seen, I think, at the beginner level of, like you said, yours, mine, just trying to sort of not lose the point. It's interesting how different that is. Yeah,
it kind of goes in stages, doesn't it? At the beginning, everyone is saying yours or mine. And then they go through a stage of saying, both up, both back. And in between that, there's a time where they're not even looking at their opponents. They just say both at net, and then their partner hits. And then that next stage, as you go to a slightly higher level, is differentiating one back, one forward, and you might say, if you know the names, then you use the name, or you might say yours back or cross back or line back or whatever it might be. And if you say cross back, that implies that the one down the line is at net. So you only need to call that once. And it's just getting used to that communication. And this is obviously what the video is about this week, is that kind of hogging, and coming across and taking your partner's confidence in a way. If we're playing together and every time that lob goes over your head, I'm running across and saying mine and taking that ball, after a while you're going to be kind of moving to the side and avoiding the ball, and therefore you will lose confidence on it. And what often happened, and this happened to me loads when I was starting, was you let the player take it because you're thinking they're more confident or they're more experienced or whatever it might be. And then you get to a stage where later on in the match where you get the lob and you do this and your partner's, not taking it anymore, A, because, they're tired, or B, because, finally they're letting you play some of the balls, but it's too late by then. You've lost, it's really damaging to your confidence if a partner keeps coming across and taking that ball. Plus they're out of position most of the time.
Yeah, it's interesting because I remember you always said to me that having that confidence, calling with confidence, and obviously we talked about hogging, and I think there's probably a balance, isn't there, between taking your partner's ball and confidently saying mine, and when it's not your ball to take. But I think you've always said to me that communication, even if you get it wrong, even if you're communicating with your partner and you say both back or both at net, and it's wrong, that perhaps they've moved, just having that assertive communication, making sure you are making the right calls if you can, and if you're not, then just at least make the calls. Yeah,
because I mean, if I'm lobbed and I'm running back and you tell me both at net and maybe one of them is hanging back, at least I am now committing to a shot. I'm thinking they're both at net and I'm committing to a shot. Whereas if you don't tell me anything, I'm thinking I don't know where they are. I wonder where they are, you know. And so it's being assertive and really almost like saying it as a command, like, you know, and saying that's where they are. You make the choice. And this again goes to that thing of hogging and confidence. If the ball goes up and you know, you've got to say mine and take it with confidence, because, you know, particularly if you're playing with a more experienced player or a stronger player and you think maybe they could hit that shot better, it doesn't matter. You've got to be like, you know, learn that confidence. Even if you're faking that confidence, you've got to do that so that you keep taking the ball. And you know, even if you make a mistake, you'll get better at it during the game. But you know, that is it's really important, the mix of, you know, communication in a positive way and being assertive, you know, on both sides of the court.
Should we jump into our questions for this week?
Yeah, let's do it.
One is related to the hogging and paddle, which I think is would be a good one to answer. So, yeah, this week, the video we've discussed hogging and paddle. How does that work when you're playing with a lefty? If you're right-handed? Yeah,
so I think there's two things. If you're playing with a lefty at the beginning and you're a new pair, you've got, this is again where assertive communication is key, because if you're left-handed, for example, and you're playing on the right and I'm playing on this side, and I'm used to playing with right-handers, I will take a lot of those balls down the middle. But you as a lefty have to be really assertive to say, that's mine, you know, I can take it as well with a Bandeja or Vibra, you know, and so, and be really loud. Like that was something we said before when we were in Sweden, the calls were too polite, you know, you're being too much of a gentleman if you're just going mine, and then there's no kind of confidence. If you call very softly, that's your ball, I'm thinking, oh, maybe I still have to take that. Sure. Yeah, exactly. Whereas if you shout mine and you're assertive, I'll be like, yep, he's got those balls. I will feel confident now in him taking that shot. And I mean, that's one thing, like when you start playing with a lefty, and then it's just realizing that a lot of those balls you could attack as well, you know, or you could defend with your Bandeja as well. So it's just being aware of that, and like I said, with, you know, the more matches you play, the more used to the partner you get, and therefore the easier it will become.
Particularly with a lefty, once you do get that communication right, it's a real advantage, isn't it?
Oh, it's great to have a lefty, you know, because suddenly you can press the net a little bit more, you can be a bit more aggressive, knowing they've got a Bandeja in the middle that can cover you, you know, if you get that mix right, then it can be really good.
So the second question we have is, I find myself getting too close to the ball. How can I practice finding the right distance from the ball?
Yeah, and I mean, we see this a lot, and I'm not sure if this is, you know, in front of the glass or after the back glass or with a double glass, but it comes back to this preparation, really, isn't it? I mean, you know, split step, kind of being in a good ready position first, you know, split stepping, reading what's going to happen, and then reacting with a quick first step. And if you're in the ready position and you do a well-timed split step and you immediately move from that split step with the first step and you start the footwork process to get into position, you often can't go wrong because you've moved early enough. The difficulty is when you miss the split step, or you're not in the ready position, or you're on your heels, or maybe you split step and then go back on your heels, then it's really difficult to get moving again quickly. I mean, you know, the acceleration comes from, you know, that bounce on the toes and then pushing off, doesn't it? And so, I mean, I think if you can get that early preparation bit sorted, you will already be faster, and then it's just a question of judging the distance. I mean, what advice would you give for someone to try and get that distance right?
No, I think spot on. I think the movement, if you don't get that right, then you're always playing catch up. Mm-hmm. And I think you're always going to be struggling. I think the biggest thing for me that I see with students is the contact point, and almost having that focus of, you know, especially if we talk about distance from the ball, for example, you know, this way or this way, and you're finding yourself too close or too far. What seems to help a lot of people is to focus on, okay, the contact has to be, you know, I'm looking to contact the ball here. Therefore, everything else seems to fall into place. You know, you start getting the distance from the body, you do a few exercises to really zone in on that contact point. I think that for a lot of students, I think that also helps. But I absolutely agree. I think if that movement to start with is not there, then you can forget about getting that right contact point, because you're you're always going to be kind of chasing the ball.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's practice, isn't it, at the end of the day? And like with anything, as much as I'm going to go away now for the next few weeks and practice hitting high lobs, people need to practice getting in the right position. And, there's things to work on at every level. Exciting
few weeks ahead for you.
It is. Yeah. Exciting and busy few weeks.
Get training, get in the gym.
I know. I'm mixing that in with all the video content we're making. So I'm going to be a busy man.
No, but it's really exciting. I think it's... great for all the countries that can make it, and even the countries that didn't make it. It's great to be able to play in those world champs, and you come back again next year stronger.
Well, I think like the British team, the female team, they didn't quite make it this time. But if anything, it's good because it's most of the team hadn't played against or seen that level of competition. I mean, the girls played against Amanda Guido and Carolina Navarro, who are like top players. So they will go away from that, and now they've got something to really focus on and to really train. So I think it's great for all of the players involved.
So the next few podcasts, we've got a few left. So we'll see the transformation.
Yeah, exactly. I'll be sitting up a little bit straighter each week. Yeah. But I mean, it's worth referencing the previous podcast, and we'll put that link down here for the previous podcast where we talk about preparation for that match play, because I think that's really useful. And don't forget to subscribe and follow us on the podcast on Spotify.